Hello and welcome to the 85th episode of the Accountant Success Secrets podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Philippa Haynes, a brand expert for accountants and bookkeepers, supporting you to stand out.
And I'm Mark Lee of Bookmark Lee. I run the Soul Practice Club and I'm a mentor, speaker and debunker. Since 2023, we've been interviewing and inspiring accountants and bookkeepers who are doing great things, have years of experience and whose stories can inspire and encourage other accountants and bookkeepers.
Yeah, as we always say, we recognise that every accountant and bookkeeper is unique and distinct. They may not know that, however, but they do have different backgrounds, experiences, and reasons for starting and building their practices. And we're there to find out exactly what those reasons are.
Absolutely. And we ask them to share their stories, including the highs, the lows, and what they've learned along the way. We're always looking to explore what makes them different in terms of their background, their successes, their failures, and their focus. Our aim every week being to provide some fundamental insights for you, our loyal listener.
Yeah, and beyond that, we schedule regular reflections episodes like this one. So today, in just 30 minutes or so, we're reflecting on our most recent interviews, and we'll both personally share and discuss something from each interview that resonated with us personally and professionally.
Yeah, just before we do that, a word about the sponsor of our podcast. Have you ever noticed, Philippa, we alternate who does, when we're doing the reflections episode, it's me that does this and
Yeah.
you do it normally. Well, obviously you've noticed that. Anyway, the sponsor of our podcast is Pinnacle Global Group, the trusted outsourcing partner to over 150 accounting and bookkeeping firms across the UK and Ireland, led by London-based chartered accountant Mayank Pandya. With offices in London and Mumbai and a team of over 300 professionals, Pinnacle provides both compliance resourcing from accountants, bookkeepers and payroll admins to tax and audit associates, and value-added support, including management accountants, virtual finance controllers, financial analysts and more. They're GDPR compliant, ISO certified, covered by PII, and offer flexible models, full-time, part-time, or pay-as-you-go. You can even start with a trial period or join their sponsored trip to Mumbai to meet the team in person. Find out more at pinnacleoss.co.uk or click the link wherever you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah. Also supporting the podcast is the Tax Advice Network. Their website enables accountants to choose specific specialist tax advisors for general tax support or for help across any of over 100 areas of tax. It's free to use, which is amazing these days. You just pay the tax advisor you choose after agreeing terms with them. Go take a look at their website called findataxadvisor.online, where you can also register to get their weekly tax tips, which are written especially for general practitioner accountants.
And finally, before we start our reflections, you can also now subscribe to our podcast on the Patreon platform. This is where you can show your love and support for Accountant Success Secrets and also subscribe for exclusive Patreon-only extras. Even if you don't want to subscribe for the extras, it's still worth subscribing on the platform because then you get notified of anything that we're doing as regards the podcast.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to do. You just need to download the Patreon app. But once you've subscribed, you will get the extra episodes via your normal podcast platform. You'll find details of what to do in our normal podcast notes and on the Accountant Success Secrets pages on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah. Right, for our first reflection today, we're going back to episode 83, when we spoke with Emma Wilder, who runs Beyond Profit, a family-run accountancy practice in Bolton, focused on supporting the charity sector. And I loved our conversation with Emma and made so many notes of topics and ideas that our conversation sparked. And let me start by referencing the importance of building relationships with people. And she quoted the old Bob Berg idea that's been adopted by BNI and other networking groups about the fact that you have to get people to know, like, and trust you. Now, anyone who's heard my talk about how to be better remembered, referred, and recommended will know that I think there's actually 6 factors at play here rather than just know, like, and trust. Oh, and without giving the whole talk, let me just stress that before anybody gets to know you, they need to connect with you, whether that's in a face-to-face environment or an online connection. And secondly, they need to notice you. It's all very well somebody knowing you, liking you, and trusting you. But if you're not front of mind because you're not attending a meeting with them on a regular basis, or they're not seeing your posts, your content, or they're not receiving messages from you, they're not going to notice and remember you. And then the sixth one, we've had connect, notice, know, like, and trust. There also needs to be a need for your services. Now, modesty aside, I like to think there's plenty of people who know, like, and trust me, and probably who are connected with me and notice me, but they never refer business to me, perhaps because they don't feel the need for my support. I get that. I understand that. Know, like, and trust is not the end of the story, though. I also do you have a view on that, Philippa, before I continue?
Yeah, I mean, I do actually, because I mean, I always talk about brand, obviously, and your brand should come from your story, you know, over time. And so the way that it should work is that your brand should pull people in based on what you're saying, beyond, you're a good accountant or bookkeeper or something like that. So it truly is about getting to know somebody even when they aren't in the room, because you can't be everywhere all the time. And yes, you can pitch up, you can go to networking, you can go to meetings, you can do thought leadership stuff. But equally, you have to have that umbrella, which is, what is this business all about? What is our story? What is our vision? Where do we come from? Why do we work in this manner, which is different from everybody else? And it's that bit that is pulling people in. So I think you're right in the sense that it's all about knowing you, and knowing you on different levels. So
Yeah,
when you get to a certain size, you can't always be in everybody's meeting room, but you can be there as a presence and as a reminder that is kind of bigger than that. So absolutely, I think this know, like, and trust is, it can work on multiple levels, but ultimately we all want to work with somebody who we feel like we know and we connect with, emotionally and professionally.
yeah.
Nobody wants to have a relationship with somebody that's cold and meaningless, really.
And in fact, I've only just realised the connection between that and my post on LinkedIn this morning, where I ask if it's too egocentric to promote yourself rather than just a brand name for your practice. And I make the point that people need to, beyond the branding for your practice, and I know you do this brilliantly because we've interviewed some of your clients, making sure that any branding is related to the person and they feel passionate about it. But there's an enormous number of accountancy firms out there who've got a brand and they're hiding who they are, which
Yeah.
means they're making it difficult for people to connect with them, which then makes it difficult for people to know, like, and trust them.
Yeah,
Um,
and then it makes it difficult for them to choose them.
yes,
you know
exactly.
I mean, one of the questions that I'm always asked about personal stories is it right that it's all about you? And I don't think it doesn't necessarily have to be Mark Lee front and center, but it does have to be Mark Lee in terms of Mark's vision, story, background, values. And whilst that will obviously radiate across the organization, were you to have one, Mark, it there has to be a stake in the ground, and that
Yeah,
doesn't need to mean that you've got to attribute it to that particular person's name, but everybody has to know where the ship is going, and that's where it starts. And if people don't know where the ship is going, then it's all over the place, isn't it?
yeah.
So I would say never be frightened of you know putting yourself into the business. Even if you don't want to be the face of it, you do need it to mean something. So
Really, really well explained. Going back to Emma Wilder, I wanted to also endorse her perspective that growth for growth's sake it's not for her. And she regrets, in fact, the growth, she said, that she'd achieved at one point before slimming the business back for peace of mind.
Yeah.
And she shared excellent piece of advice to be clear on why you're in business. And I was reminded of one of my mentoring clients who's often he's built his practice up. I think he's got about a dozen staff. He's often being approached by large firms who seem quite serious about wanting to buy his practice. And we talk about each opportunity, but invariably, we have today always returned to the same conclusion. However appealing the offer might be, he doesn't want to be a partner in somebody else's firm. He wants to run his own firm and build it up at his own pace,
Yeah.
not too fast, and not to be responsible to anybody else. And I think that's a similar attitude to Emma's there, and he's got clarity as regards why he's there, and I think he feels fortunate that he's able to talk through these opportunities and issues with me, rather than being tempted to take a leap that he'd be likely to regret later.
Yeah. I mean, I think Emma is a good example of somebody who's done the work behind the scenes and has really thought about the business and where she's going. And she has a very strong sense of purpose. And I think a lot of people say that, but I think you really see that with Emma, just because of the focus, the charity focus, the fact that it's not all about making money, it's about making enough. I think if I remember correctly, there's quite a few family members now
That's
involved in it.
yeah,
Um, and that's not unusual in accounting at all. I know lots of different firms who've got
yeah,
family members, but I think on this particular um, example is they're quite close knit, they're quite tight knit, and I think that sense of purpose is really really strong, and affects the whole family and the ethos of the business. So I thought Emma was very she was very clear in her purpose. Um, and I don't think she'd always been that way. I think, as you said, she'd wavered, but it she felt very strong now in
yeah.
in how she was proceeding.
That's right. And the final point I wanted to pick up on was really to endorse Emma's observation that accountancy is a people business. I think historically it was common for people to consider accountancy because they felt they weren't good with people and they were better with numbers.
Yeah,
And as Emma said, uh, even if that was ever true, it's unlikely to sustain a career in accountancy into the future, where AI in the near future, if not already, can help with a lot of the number crunching, shall we say, and related work. And again, I've long referenced this in my talks and blog posts, the need to develop key business skills that are going to be even more important going forward, and highlighting them to clients and prospective clients, which goes back a bit to brand and story and your values and who you are. And what is it about you that enables you to deliver valuable services to clients and for them to relate to you and to feel well looked after you, regardless, sort of well looked after by you, regardless of what technology or AI you might be using to support you. And that concept came across so strongly in the way that Emma was talking, I felt.
yeah, you're right. It really did. People are very wrong when they see an accounting or bookkeeping firm or one-man band even as strong on the numbers, because actually the clients that they serve are probably not very strong on numbers, and it finances are always seem to be quite a stressful kind of topic. So if you're not good with people and you're not able to get inside their heads and be emotionally intelligent as well, then you are going to fail. You aren't
You're,
going to
you,
be
you're, gonna,
able.
you're going to struggle.
Yeah, you're going to
Definitely.
you're going to really struggle, because the numbers are just the starting point,
Yeah.
really. Um, it's actually what you do with those numbers and what the outcome is and the recommendation and how you talk about those numbers, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, because it's somebody's life that you're holding on to.
Absolutely.
And
And
people need to remember that.
yeah, and that's more true going forwards than ever before. Let's,
Exactly.
let's talk about Kasia Makalinski, who was our most recent interviewee. She runs Prevail Accountancy in Bolton and is focused very much on SME businesses in the construction sector. And earlier in our conversation with Kasia, she explained how she helps her clients appreciate the importance of budgeting and cash flow projections, as well as business process improvements to ensure the business's longevity, sustainability, and profitability. And one of the key things I took from that interview was the way that Kasia clarifies the services that she provides to her clients and articulates the different elements of her services so that they really appreciate why her fractional finance director and outsourced finance team services go way beyond the service they might have had previously, and that they might continue to receive from a bookkeeper and a compliance focused accountant, with her doing the other stuff on top, although her team can do all that as well. And I thought it was a really valuable lesson for anyone who wants to do more advisory work for clients. I'd encourage you, go back and listen to Kasia's interview again to get a good understanding of the importance of being able to articulate what advisory services really means for her clients and what it involves, and think about how you might be able to adapt that in terms of both the services you currently offer and the services you'd like to offer too. And it's
Yeah.
something I've talked about with a number of mentoring clients. Sorry, just to finish on that. Over the years, and we return to it every now and again in meetings of the Sole Practice Club, because it's quite fundamental to those accountants who want to do more than just compliance work. And I will be recommending the interview with Kasia, that people take a listen to that to get a good feel how one accountant makes it work.
Yeah, and her example was a strong one. But working in construction, I would suggest, isn't always that easy.
I'm sure.
Um, they're very kind of frantic businesses generally, dealing with quite a lot of, manpower, etc., etc. But from her conversations around how she got into these businesses and started to work with them on kind of budgeting, which a lot of them never do. A lot of the project work goes over budget pretty quickly, and
Mm,
mainly because they're not managing that process. So I think she's done an incredible job of just managing to insert herself into those sorts of businesses and showing day to day. And of course, budget for a construction company is everything. um, just how much of an impact she can make. The other part of Kasia, because she's a very strong personality, so it doesn't surprise me that she
yeah.
can have those conversations
Yes.
with anybody like that, any business like that. But her, she's a strong person. She has a strong mindset. She's very single-minded.
She's
Um,
developed that resilience because of her life experiences, both
exactly.
personal and adventuring and business as well. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, she had an accident where, I mean, it really, the person that she was climbing with actually died.
Yeah.
And I think it was that she broke her back, but managed to sort of pick herself up and get back to
Incredible story.
camp,
Yeah.
which is an incredible story. And probably shows that she's a very strong, single-minded person anyway. But that strength has definitely been taken on. And her mindset is pretty up, well, yeah, pretty strong and hardy. That's not to say that she doesn't have ups and downs, because I've known Kasia and we've had conversations where things haven't always gone right. But what she does do is find a way of kind of carrying on and getting through that and finding solutions. And what she did say in this interview with us was the importance of kind of showing up every day,
Yeah.
and it and creating that behavior, creating that rhythm. Even if you don't feel like doing something, you turn up. So she's got a very strong routine. Gets up at 5 a.m., does some exercise. I mean, this is not for the faint-hearted, so it's not for everybody, but you can insert your own routine as you see fit, even if that starts at 8 o'clock rather than 5. But she does all of these things, and she turns up and shows up every day and does those things, even if she doesn't want to, because mentally it's taking her from A to whatever, A to B throughout the day, and it's mentally giving her that strength and that sense of purpose and that structure that she needs. And that's really a really strong message, I think.
Oh,
That
yeah.
Go on, sorry, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. And despite her success to date, her awards, clarity of focus, she doesn't sit back and wait for prospects to seek her out online. As you say, she makes a point of showing up. Yeah, she's got a great profile on LinkedIn and a wonderful website, but she still puts herself out there. She shows up largely at events for her sector, not generic networking events. And
Yes.
again, that's a really important lesson, especially for those accountants who want more work, just
Yeah.
hoping that being on LinkedIn and having a website is all they have to do. Well, Kasha is doing a lot more than that. So it's less surprising that she's having the success she is.
Yeah, and mentioning her website is pretty clear in terms of who she and her team serve,
Yeah,
and how they serve it. And she has also kind of inserted her story. So you will see images of kind of mountains
yeah,
and struggle, and but you know that that's the bit that makes your brand unique, and your stories kind of be a part of that. And I think it fits so well with construction and sort of climbing, and it's quite a powerful metaphor, really, that I think kind of really describes her down to a T.
yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
so a really good example. So I would definitely recommend that you have a look at the Prevail accountancy website and just see what we mean by that.
Yeah. The other thing, just to pick up on, was the way that Kasha explained that she doesn't see anything she does as a mistake, even if it doesn't work out. And she was espousing much the same view that I explained on our reflections episode 73, when I was talking about our conversation with Simon Mason. Because I've learned much the same point that Kasha mentioned from Tony Buzan many years ago. It was Tony Buzan who originated mind maps. And he pointed out that when you're on an upward trajectory and something goes wrong, you can look at it as a failure, or you can look at it as an experience. And if you're prepared to pick yourself up from it, as Kasha did literally on the mountain, but as she does generally in life and in with her practice, but if you're prepared to pick yourself up from it, you can get on and continue on your upward trajectory. I can't say that word. A lot faster than if you just sit back and moan about the failure. And Kasha's story really epitomizes that approach. She doesn't make mistakes. She has learning experiences, as do I. I've had a lot of them.
And so have I. But
Yeah.
that's what marks out an entrepreneurial spirit, really. I think you could talk to many people, um, whether we know clients, friends, peers within the industry, or going into sort of well-known entrepreneurs that everybody knows. But one of the things that they do is they always do that self-reflection work, and that rather than going into a black hole if something goes wrong, finding a way of picking themselves out of that hole and saying, what have we learned here, and how do they turn that from a negative into a positive? And that's the only way to do it, really, even if it's a terrible experience that you've had. It's how are you going to repair that, and how are you going to move on?
Absolutely.
and that's
And without
important.
wishing to blow our own trumpets, we've done that in a minor way over the last couple of weeks. Regular listeners will be aware that we normally reflect on 4 interviews in a
True.
reflections episode. Today we've only done 2 because our last 2 guests, I screwed up. I made a mistake. I didn't confirm that I'd booked them to Philippa, so she didn't confirm to the guests. One of them will be coming back in the new year. The other one seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth, despite making various attempts to contact them. But we are now fully booked through with fresh guests through to the end of February. And we've updated our process to ensure we don't have another gap like that. We don't have another mistake. We've learned from the experience. It was a learning experience just to get better and stronger as we head towards our 100th episode in 2026. It's now going to be a
I
little later.
know.
It was going to be on the 1st of April, which was making me think,
Ah,
it won't be now. It'll be later than that because we missed a few.
I think that's pretty good, though, isn't it? That's pretty good.
It's wonderful. There was one final thing I was just going to pick up because we're at the end of the year in our last episode before we take a festive break, coming back on the 7th of Jan. I just thought it might be appropriate to pick up on the number of times we've heard guests talking about their support network, whether that's a group of local accountants, a networking group, or a business mastermind. And I would say this, wouldn't I? But any sole practitioner listening who doesn't have such a group is very welcome to check out my online Soul Practice Club, which involves primarily monthly online meetings with me and a group of other like-minded soul practitioners supporting each other and we discuss various practical topics which are of relevance and value and benefit to everyone. But not doing an advert for me here.
No, but that's an interesting one, though. Just before we finish, it's very important to have a support network. But what I think we do need to, well, people listening to this need to think. There are 2 things that you need to think about. One is having a support network, within the industry, and I think it's a very friendly industry, and people help out. But then you've got to remember that you also need to appear where your client or potential prospect is, and we talked about how is it Kasia who appears where her prospects are. She'll go to the different trade shows. So that's one of the things that over the 6 or 7 years that I've been involved with accountants and bookkeepers is have your friends, have that support network, but don't forget that you are talking in a bit of a what's the term? Echo chamber. That's it. So, as a brand person, make sure that once you've decided what your story is and what your brand's all about and who you're going to be serving, make sure that you find yourself there too. And don't stay within the confines of the industry when you want to talk to prospects. So slightly different 2 things. Both are important, and both are true. So
it's a key point I make when I'm running LinkedIn masterclasses or one-to-one sessions on LinkedIn. A lot of the people who we might think of being very successful on LinkedIn within the accounting profession are largely talking to other accountants and bookkeepers.
Yeah.
And that may be their release and they may be enjoying it, and that's absolutely fine. There is nothing wrong with that at all. But let's not confuse that activity and engagement with them being able to use LinkedIn to attract and then potentially engage the prospective clients they really want. Because engaging with lots of other accountants may work for some people, but for most, that's not the way to get the clients that you want. There are other things you need to do. But I'm going to avoid getting into my sort of LinkedIn standard advice here for accountants.
Exactly. And that's because, of course, the time has flown again and we need to wrap things up. And also reiterate that we are taking a short break over the festive period, but we will be back, and we will be hoping that within the first quarter we get to 10,000 downloads as well. We're
Well,
not
that'd be
far
good.
off, so that
Oh,
would
awesome.
be great.
Oh, I love that. We'll be back on the 7th of January with another great guest, Rachel Chadwick Harrison. Do please contact Philippa or me if you'd like to be interviewed on the podcast in March, because we're now fully
Yeah.
booked through to the end of February 26.
And Mark, you've done most of that. We must congratulate you. You have been working very hard to talk to those people who have been in touch with you and also to pick up conversations. So that's fabulous.
Yeah, and most people I ask say yes, which is lovely. But we've had at least 2 of the interviews coming up in January and February were volunteers who came to me, and I
Yeah.
checked them out, and they're going to be great because they're both very special. I'm really looking forward to 2026. We've done really well so far, but there's so much more to come.
There is so much more to come, and we appreciate those people who are going to be with us in January, because for some it's a very busy time of year,
Yeah.
but they are taking time out of their busy schedule to come and talk with us, and I hope that everybody will tune into that.
Yeah. You'll find all the interviews and episodes we've mentioned on LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Patreon, and on Apple Podcasts. If you feel we deserve it, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, because that really does help us to reach an even wider audience. And obviously also let us have your feedback and share the love online too. If you're a listener who just searches online each week for the next episode, or you only watch this on the LinkedIn feed, do please subscribe on one of the podcast channels, or even better on our Patreon channel, so we have a better idea of how many regular listeners that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be wonderful to get more people on Patreon, because the extra bit that we do, it's sort of getting into sort of 15, 20 minutes now, but they really are a
Each one.
yeah, they are a very different type of interview, because we're talking about the future and we're talking about challenges, and it's a very kind of personal and also reflective
Yeah,
session where
yeah,
people are doing so well to actually talk about some of the challenges. But it's really interesting. It's talking about AI in particular, the technology side, but also where their business is going. So for those people who are thinking about January and where their business is going, this is the sort of content that will really help you to decide where you're going and what your business, what you're planning for that. So do, if you can, join us on Patreon, and I think you'll find it very worthwhile.
awesome.
Anyway,
Yeah.
before we finish up, our thanks again to the sponsor of this episode, Pinnacle Global Group, your trusted outsourcing partner. We must thank them for all of their support for this year, and for obviously going into 2026 too. It's just wonderful to have them part of the team. Please check out their website and let their CEO, Mike, know that you heard about Pinnacle Global on the Accountants Success Secrets podcast.
And thanks too to the Tax Advice Network, the easiest way for accountants to reach specialist tax advisors. Remember, there's no charge for using the website, findataxadvisor.online, where you can also register to try their weekly tax tips, written especially for general practitioner accountants. And Philippa, should we just very quickly share our contact details in a traditional way? How can listeners find out more about you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. That is the best place. Yeah, DM me directly and we can have a chat. If you're interested in kind of your brand, your story, you know, we've talked about that in the session about how you can really start to not only stand out, but serve your clients and your prospects better. And of course, Mark, let us know a little bit more about how listeners can contact you.
Online, bookmarklee.co.uk. I'm Mark Lee FCA on LinkedIn to distinguish me from over 5,000 other people with whom I share my name there.
There's only one Mark Lee.
I'd like to think so. There's at least 5 in the accounting profession that I know of. Mad. at one point I connected with them just to try and confuse the algorithm, which seems thing to do. I'm always happy to have an initial conversation with sole practitioners with no obligation, no strings, and no pushy sales techniques. If you're listening to this for the first time, I'd encourage you to reach out, connect with both Philippa and me on LinkedIn, and do please follow the podcast pages on LinkedIn and on Facebook.
Yeah, I think we're done. Do you know what? We should have worn Christmas hats, but
I knew
hey.
you would say that.
I've got loads of them as well. I mean, that
I
was a
guess
big miss on my
I'm
part.
going to my first Christmas party tonight of this
Oh,
year, not ever, obviously.
yeah. Well, do enjoy it. And for everybody out there who's listening now or listening over the Christmas period, have a wonderful break and have a wonderful time with friends and family. And we'll see you again in the new year.
Absolutely. And I hope you can have a break. I know some accountants are planning to shut their doors on the 19th of December, opening again on the 5th of Jan. Others, I'm going to say sadly, will be working through. Always worth remembering, not everybody in the country celebrates Christmas in the same way.
That's true
And
as well.
some people take it as an opportunity to get on with work whilst everybody else is out enjoying themselves. Each to their own. Whatever you're doing, have a wonderful, wonderful time and a very happy new year. And until next time on the Accountant Success Secrets podcast or anywhere else we might meet online or in real life. Bye-bye for now. Merry Christmas.
See you soon.